The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Safina Insecticide, and Cruiser Max Vibrance Beans.
Bernard Tobin here on the Soybean School down in Chatham, Ontario, catching up today with Aaron Breimer from Veritas. Aaron, how's it going?
Excellent.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for the invite. I want to talk about soybean yield today. And earlier in the season, we talked about August rains make grain in soybeans. And, you know, that is so true, but there's a lot more to the story. Now, you do a lot of data, and you turn it into management information. What does that data tell you about soybean yield?
So, Veritas is all about data. A lot of people know me for these huge data sets that I try to drill through. Actually, the one that I want to talk about when it comes to soybean yields is something that we did back in 2011 and 2012. I was curious to understand where the soybean yields were coming from the soybean plant. Because the interesting thing about soybeans in Ontario, they're an indeterminate plant. So they're flowering for several weeks, and those pods are slowly working their way up the plant. So the question was, where do these soybeans actually come from? So what we did was in 2011, we hand harvested 500 soybean plants. And we counted how many pods were at every node all the way up on those plants. And we figured out what was the average number of pods per node. And then we went back and we graphed it across the length of the plant. So if you're looking at the bottom quarter of the plant, that's going to be your first, second, maybe your third node, depending how short or how tall your soybeans are. And then you got into your fourth, fifth, and sixth nodes, and then eventually into your seventh, eighth, and to the top of the plant. What we found that was really, really interesting was that the third, fourth, and fifth nodes, that's where we actually had the biggest or the highest number over the average. So what that means is the number of pods on that third, fourth, fifth node, that was where you had the most pods per node on that plant. Everybody talks about those pods at the top of the plant, but the majority of the pods are actually down further in the canopy.
And the yield.
And that's where the yield is too. So when we talk about soybeans, a little bit different than corn. Corn, we know we have to have super uniform emergence right off the hop. If you don't, you're giving up yield pretty quick. With soybeans, you can plant them into some pretty tough conditions and they can look pretty ugly, and they compensate for each other. And it's because of stuff like this. So it's understanding how important those soybeans in that third, fourth, fifth node are happening. Now, when you think about the flowering time, so when soybeans first start to flower, we call that R1. So that's usually the end of June, beginning of July. Then R2 starts up. I usually say between the 15th and the 20th of July, and it's going to go until the end of July, roughly. There's scientific ways of describing what R1 is and what R2 is. But I look at more as it from the calendar because that's what's important to farmers. Here's the challenge. What's going on the 20th of July?
Wheat harvest.
Yeah, Peter Johnson. Yeah, his favorite crop. So everybody's excited about harvesting wheat. It's the first crop we're able to harvest usually in Ontario. So everybody's super excited about that, and we're forgetting about soybeans.
Yeah. So we've got a big yield coming from those third and fourth nodes. We have an opportunity to manage them during that July wheat harvest window. We don't get out there, but what should we be doing?
So my thinking is what we need to be doing more of is tissue testing. And not just a one-off tissue test to see what's high and what's low. Because just because something is high does not necessarily mean it's good. Just like if something is low, it's not necessarily bad. So what you want to be looking for is trends. So if you're out there tissue testing once a week, that is going to give you a lot better idea as to, is your phosphorus increasing or decreasing? Is your manganese increasing or decreasing? Everybody is getting super excited about boron. Well, is it going up or down, right? And now you can start to be able to make better decisions. Quite often in that 20th of July, 25th of July, maybe the 1st of August, guys are starting to think about maybe going out with a fungicide. Well, if you're going out over the field anyway, why not add a foliar fertilizer? And why not add a foliar fertilizer that, based on tissue tests, you have a pretty good chance that you're going to get some money back?
What type of impact can we make managing those nodes at that time, yield-wise?
I love questions like that because I'm a numbers guy. So I'll give you an example. So 165,000 plants per acre. That's a fairly common planting rate. If you can get one extra bean per plant, not an extra pod, just one extra bean. So one of those pods on that plant, instead of 2 beans in it, it now has 3. So if you do that on every plant, that's going to give you 165,000 extra beans. Doesn't seem like that much, but when you divide it by 2,750 seeds per pound, which is an average seeds per pound, you get 60 pounds. So 60 pounds is 1 bushel. So that one extra bean, not an extra pod, one extra bean equals 1 extra bushel. So imagine if you could put on an extra 2 or 3 pods, right? Now you're talking 6, 7, maybe 9 bushels more if you hit the timing just right. But it might mean ignoring wheat, at least in the morning.
I don't know if Peter's going to put up with that. So some great insights, Aaron. I also want to finish this up about talking about seed size. You mentioned, obviously we can manage the 3rd and 4th node, but hey, seed size is so important as well when it comes to bushels in the bin.
Exactly. So the interesting thing about seed size is the last couple of years we've seen a huge change in the seeds per pound. Back when I was first selling seed in 2001, 2002, it wasn't uncommon for Roundup Ready soybeans to be 3,000, 3,100 seeds per pound. Now they're down in the low 2,000s. And even year over year, we're quite often seeing a swing of 500 seeds per pound. Well, if you take 500 seeds per pound as a swing, that equates to 20% or 10 extra bushels. So yeah, those rains in August are critical because that's going to give you that 10 extra bushels. Not sure, there's going to be those extra little pods at the top, but it's the bigger soybean size. That is what's giving you the yield. And those soybean pods down at that 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th node, those ones have the longest time to be able to get bigger. So they're going to benefit the most from those late August rains. So if you can get those extra pods, that's going to give you extra yield. So if you figure an extra 10 bushels just from bigger beans, and you get an extra 6 or 7 bushels from the right combination of foliar fertilizer and maybe a fungicide, you're talking 15 to 20 bushels pretty quick. And all of a sudden, soybeans are starting to look like a pretty cool crop.
We'll take it. And Peter Johnson, that's all right. We'll put him aside. We'll manage our wheat, but we'll manage our soybeans as well. Aaron, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the invitation. Great to have you on Soybean School.
Perfect. Thank you.